Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you that the name of honor calling activity right here. As you see right here, is I went ahead and drew an example right here of like a me, and this right here, this drawing right here, I went ahead and did. I was not looking at no pictures or nothing, but what you see right here is I went ahead and drew right here is the details. I say of more likely that what I would look like whenever I was at least whenever. Whenever I was at least maybe 8 years old, 8, 9 years old, something like that. I think in the first and second grade, whenever I was drawing this, I was trying to make it look like if the whole story, I guess you say the plot of the story, and knowing about that with the whole for part of the story of talking about whenever I was young, that knowing about that for whatever that we choose to go to school for, and and of course our studies. And I kept thinking about and I talked about a number of things, a number of stories that more likely to go on about is like maybe why we choose to go to that study field or something like that. I may have explained maybe a few dozen times, of course, but with most parents, and then with most anybody would probably say about that maybe that they could explain knowing about, really, can you really explain about how they teach you something, and then why they teach it to you. But it seems like at the time that knowing about that there are certain tricks that knowing about, if you're going to be what you call, if you remember the first time that you decide to cook your own breakfast, or make your own sandwich, something like that. But what you hear right here talk about is like the example right here of me, and let's just say that this example right here of me, and I'm gonna go ahead and use right here is that work right here is the crayons, and then I have some markers, of course, also, but I'll go ahead and use right here is some of the markers right here is like for the desk. But let's just say that. I'm like, yeah, that if I were to be working this maybe on like Photoshop, then maybe I would have more selections of the tools and colors and stuff. But anyway, talk about it's like for honor, the name, honoring for the name. It's like the name of honor is talking about is like if most of us can remember the first grade or maybe kindergarten is knowing about from whenever I was young, that I may have told everybody before, knowing about the reason why I got into art and in creativity. And anybody probably say, but yeah, your cousin or your parents may have said something about the teachers gave you good remarks up there at the school or something like that. But and I think that more likely that was true, that they gave me some good remarks about my work, and then suggested that going to art class. But and on the other hand, that knowing about, I was in the band class too. I was into band also, and if I can remember right, that I wanted to get involved with some type of band. But then I know that usually that they happen. I think some of them were like even after school activities or something like that. But other than that I can remember band, and then I also remember a few other activities that, of course, I was interested in, also like drama. But on the other hand, that knowing about with most of the time with most kids, that knowing about that one of your top passions, of course, was to be able to do something, do something like what you call is like for creative, of like so far as for talk about so far as smart decisions, and knowing about to be careful what you're doing. It is. And on the other hand, too, that knowing about is something that I know that more likely I used to always think, though, whenever I was in class, is to try something, to try to impress the teachers and try to impress the students, the classmates. But one of those would more likely be, I guess, which I would have picked right here is the name, is that the knowing about that I can tell anybody here that I think I may have said something before about from other activity, is basically that with my name, though, that whenever I would write my name, a lot of times that I had to look at my at the spelling of my last name, because I had a hard time trying to spell my last name. And I'm trying to remember how I spelt my last name. If I can recall, I'm like my last name, that if I maybe would have spelt it like MC MC. I think it was. I spelt it as you know. See here, UARE or something like that. I think I may have spelt it as MCG UARE or something like that, maybe at one time. But anyway, but you have right here is that knowing about that is like you got right here is my it's like for my name, and basically that talking about it's like for the name of honor. And I'll tell anybody here that a lot of times if I were to be turning in my assignments, it is, and basically that all it talks about is that knowing about whenever you're turning it in, that you would put your name on the top, and then if you let's just say that that a lot of the work that they usually say that especially if you're going to have an assistant with you or a tutor, somebody that shows you, and then knowing about, I'm like, they show you the work, and then they ask you to go ahead and try this, or try to answer this question or that question, something like that. And basically, I'm just drawing like lines right here because on the other hand, anybody probably say, I'm like, that they probably done a lot of time worth of work, and just knowing about that the time and effort and into the getting an assignment done, and just knowing about, I'm like, did you do it by yourself, or did you did you get some help from somebody, something like that. But on the hand too, that knowing about it's like for the name of honor of talk about right here is that write my name, and basically that anybody probably say about like the teachers. Now I don't think it was a permanent marker though, but it was a permanent. It would be a marker kind of like this right here, to where if most of us can see right here, it's like for Penway kids, and I don't even know if this marker still writes. Let's see here, writes just a little bit. I'm like, it's an old marker. I had it around for quite a while. So the markers that they had you using a lot of times were like kind of like markers like this. If I can remember right, in the first and second grade, those couple of years ago, that they would have you use a marker kind of like this right here, and or a pencil, or sometimes it could have been crayons too. Like if they had you to where you write your name, and like nowadays that they have like what you call the touchscreen devices and electronic devices that you touch, just to spell, A, B, C, something like that. I'm like, for most kids and knowing about, I'm like, so I talk about A, B, C. I'm like, how do you write the A, B, C's with the crayon, something like that. I could tell anybody here that I'm like, that if I were to write it, using a charcoal pencil, it's like, A, B, C. I'm like, besides looking at it in black and white. If we can kind of notice the difference here between these writing and drawing utensils, that, if we were to be working like Microsoft Word, if most of us are familiar with that, talk about, say, with Microsoft Word, if we were to be spelling, like if I were to write my name right here using this pencil right here, the 2H pencil. I think that the high graphic type pencil it is, but you got right there is my name right there, and basically that if most of us were to get some practice with like Microsoft Word, and then knowing exactly about how to work all the tools that like beside Times New Roman, stuff like that. But on the other hand, that knowing about like that if there was a way that you can sign your name using Microsoft Word, you may have to have the right that writing tool, and more likely I'm thinking that they can maybe be purchased for maybe less than $50 at like a nearest store. But on the other hand, that knowing about that's like for writing our names, and knowing about like that really whenever you write your name, we may think about that really, I'm like, really anybody can do it. I'm like, all you have to do is just position the pencil like this and just write right here M-A-T-T, but on your hand too, like so for M-A-T-T, but on your hand too, anybody that like anybody who's just learning, that they may say that sometimes it's hard to write M-A-T-T, But other than that, like talking about right here, I'm talking about say the name of honor, and basically though that I can go ahead and use right here is this marker right here, and I got these other colors right here. But let's just say if I were to say write my name right here, a lot of times if most of us remember, going to school back in the early, if it would have been about the early 1970s, something like that, maybe in early 1980s, that they would give you like a paper, and that would be like say my name, and I can go and write Matthew right here, and of course it's my last name. And whenever I see my last name, that especially my full name, like talking about, it's like for S. Whenever I would see my name, I kind of thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that knowing about the way that you would write your name, and if most of us remember, like I may have explained on some other activities of talking about that they would have it to where that if you would give you a paper to write with, and then that there would be like these markings right here to where that a lot of times the lowercase and the uppercase had to be between this line right here. And I think it was about 3.13 millimeters, you say, on both sides, to the center. So a lot of times that your name had to go in between this line right here. It's like talk about say helping you understand you say the ABCs and like 1, 2, 3s, stuff like that. But on the other hand too, that knowing about ways of how we write our name, and basically that I kept thinking about whenever I would write my name on a few of assignments, I kept thinking about about ways of how to write your name. It's besides talking about ways of how you write your name, and knowing about if most of us were have like say like the type of markers at maybe like in the classroom, or if it's anything that you're doing like say for any type of activities or anything, but the type of writing tools, the type of writing supplies that I found here at home, and knowing about that most of us that may have this maybe in the classroom, is that knowing about that the types of markers and writing utensils that they usually give you, and some that may say that like the permanent markers, that a lot of times those are say that not very safe, that for the younger kids to learn how to to use them, and like which can write with them and even draw with them. And I could think about, I'm like, yeah, that with most of the time with most children, that if most of us know that like they usually say is like you don't put it in your mouths and stuff like that, don't put it in your mouth, and just whenever you're holding the marker, or if it's the pencil, and I got right here is like a mechanical pencil right here. Most of us and most kids will like talk about the way that they would write, say ABC, and then it's like your ABC right there, and then knowing about ways of how you would want to write your name. It's like talking about if I can remember right, whenever I first started signing my name, I think it was like this. It looked like this right here, to where M-A-T-T, each I may have said it a multiple amount of times, but on the other hand too, that knowing about my that is it possible that your signature is going to look different from different these different writing tools that you have, such as this right here is a pen, and I think the Sharpie type pen, and let's just see how if most of us can kind of tell. I'm like, see that? So in a lot of ways that knowing about that we may have it to where it may write just a little bit different, but on the other hand like with these different writing utensils that you have, and along say with the art pencils, but on the other hand too, that knowing about, I'm like, that for knowing about for how you do it, of knowing about is like for knowing about how it's to be honored by, and knowing about like that you spent a lot of time looking up something or doing something. It's like we say measure say with the ruler, like you working at your desk for those few minutes working on a test or an exam or something like that, and then next thing you know, like you write your name, and and basically they say you didn't do very well on a test, but then they still, you wrote your name as neat. Like I say so far, talk about it, say perfectly. But other than that, knowing about anybody that may think though that with their handwriting, like anybody, I can remember that whenever I was young that used to think that I'm like, yeah, my handwriting was a little bit sloppy compared to a few other like in cursive. If most of us know that, I'm like, yeah, that if you were to write in cursive, and I could tell anybody here that. I learned in, I think it was in the second grade. If I can remember, I learned how to write in cursive in the second grade. And I can go ahead and give some examples right here, like, so far as, for hello, if like, hello. Like for hello, and like, hello, yeah, see here, how should I say that? I'm like, yeah, exactly, for hello. And if I want to go ahead and put on here, today, today is, like for today is Sunday. And anybody that may think of, I'm like, yeah, that knowing about, if you were to write the date down, maybe on paper, and then the next thing you turn in, maybe the following Monday or something like that, knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that for how much time it took, just to work something and turn it in, and then knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that really, that if any, most of the teachers are going to say that, yep, you put your name on it, and then knowing about how well you did, and basically that I talk about if it was supposed to be written in cursive or anything like that. But most of the time, whenever I was in school, I kept thinking about that a lot of things that I wanted to be good at it, such as what you call, anybody probably say one of the things was standing in front of the class and talking about something, and sometimes that was hard for me to do. Over the fact that I'm like, yeah, why was it so difficult, really? Maybe if it was on the other hand about knowing about that really, maybe the students were going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But other than that, talking about, I'm like, anybody may think, I'm like, yeah. So far with S, it's like you say for my initials, or if it's anything related to, like talk about, say, abbreviation, say of the name. And anyway, but you have right here is you got these different writing utensils. But on the other hand, that knowing about, like, yeah, that like I use green. This marker right here is, of course, this example. I think this is like one of the only markers I have. So this is like kind of like a marker that I use, for example, because I know back in the older days that they had it to where that usually that they would have the students write with a marker like this. And besides a crayon, it would be other writing utensil, such as like the crayons. If you want to go ahead and maybe write over the name here, or I'm like, yeah, that talk about like you got green and then along with blue. So, I like, yeah, green and blue, and then purple, or any colors like that. But I really don't know. I like, if I would say that whenever if you're going to be in school or doing something, and then they want you to sign your name, but then they only said that you have it. You only had the choices between the orange and the black or something like that. You don't really have a choice between what colors that you want to use. But on the other hand, I really don't know what all the schools are, school policies are nowadays about how they want you to write the name. But other than that, talking about if you're going to be working with, like, say, maybe your multiplications and times tables, or if anybody knows what I'm talking about, talk about cutting and gluing, the types of school supplies that they have you're using, like the glue and the scissors and of course the paste and notepad, notebooks, stuff like that. But on the hand to the top, I say for the name of honor of talking about whenever, a lot of times whenever I would write my name and actually be looking at the paper right here, I would a lot of times would think about like, yeah, draw something interesting and talk about like, yeah, that people would maybe like to know about, who did the artwork. And it seems like, I don't know, at the time, how true is it? And knowing about if maybe that's maybe one of the reasons to why that artwork has really been my strong passion. And knowing about that besides, my, ability to where that, my, disability to where I was, always thought that I was limited to the number of things I can do, since, medical reasons. But on the other hand, too, that knowing about that with most of the time about my artwork, though, that I kept thinking about that after I try something and it seems like I should not continue. But on the other hand, too, I kind of had like what you say is a real strong passion, heart toward basically towards working on my skills and knowing about that. If you work hard towards your talents, and then it will get better. And like anybody that may say, like, for practice that makes perfect, but I usually go by saying it's like, for the more time that you work harder on it, and possibly it will improve. So all by saying about knowing about, people usually always think about, like, that how come your handwriting at 1 year that your handwriting looked like this right here. Like, you would write your name like that and say a few sentences, and then a few years later, it got smaller, and now it's like you pretty much have to, it's like that magnifying glass, whichever it is. But on the hand too, that knowing about is understanding about, say, the name of honor, of knowing about the things that we discover. It's like whenever we're kids, and knowing about that it's like for, that whatever that meets, it's like our goals. It's all like, talk about to make us happy, and knowing about right here is to say the name of honor collectivity. Well, hello, it's like talk about, it's like for name of honor, you have right here is talking about right here is like, say, the coloring right here, talk about it's like for how to be honored, for your hard work, and knowing about if you were to write your name on something it is, but basically that if most kids were to think about, you have right here is the marker right here, the type of marker that I'm sure that most kids will recall, maybe using, ever since they were in the first and second grade, maybe in preschool, or maybe, like I say, it's like in kindergarten, daycare, stuff like, class like that, and knowing about that you have right here is these crayons, and you have right here is the marker. Anybody probably think about, like, that if you're working, you're doing, like they say that, a lot of times with most markers that they had said that, that for non-toxic, between toxic and non-toxic, they say it's not smart, to put it in your mouth, and of course, they're working with the crayons. They say don't put it in your mouth, and basically say that it's used, for writing. But on the other hand, too, anybody probably say that it's usually good if you do get something in your eyes or in your mouth. Is of course it's like to wash, you say, with sanitize, and then know about how to use, say, the writing these writing markers to say properly. Know about talk about in case of some reason if it gets in the mouth, as they basically talk about for the care instructions. But